Mysterious radio bursts are buzzing Earth with an unusual rhythm. Mysterious fast radio bursts, known as FRBs, on the other side of the cosmos has been pinging our telescopes with a strange cadence. It's probably not aliens, says astronomers. The USA Today reports telescopes in the European VLB network helped to pinpoint the location of the repeating signal in 2019. Fast radio bursts, strange, sometimes repeating signals from the other side of the cosmos, remain one of the universe's great mysteries. Detectors on Earth pick up these signals, and then in a flash, they're gone forever. And astronomers aren't sure where they come from. But as the amount of radio bursts discovered continue to stack up, astronomers are beginning to discover more and more about them. The fast radio burst FRB 180916.J0158+65, discovered in 2018 and pinpointed to a spiral galaxy approximately 500 million light years away, was examined over a period of 13 months and found to repeat with a highly regular rhythm. The first time astronomers have seen a deep space signal act in such a way. In a new paper published on the preprint server ARXIV and yet to be peer-reviewed, scientists working with the Canadian Hydrogen Intensity Mapping Experiment Fast Radio Burst CHIME FRB project describe a process of listening to the burst between September 2018 and October 2019 using the huge ground-based CHIME telescope situated in British Columbia, Canada. Researchers detected the deep space signals with a startling regularity. Over 4 days, they detected the fast bursts every hour or so, before the signals suddenly stopped. Then, after 12 days of silence, they'd kick back up again, pinging the CHIME telescope. The first FRB was discovered in 2007, but in recent years, new telescopes and greater interest have seen a motherlode of FRBs discovered. Many of these ultra-powerful radio signals do not repeat. We hear them and they disappear. A small proportion do continue to buzz Earth. In 2019, the CHIME collaboration discovered a new set of 8 repeating bursts for follow-up analysis. It's hoped by studying the repeating bursts, astronomers will be able to shed light on these mysterious signals. And I know what you're thinking, but you can stop right now. It's very, very unlikely to be aliens, says Adam Deller, an astrophysicist. Well, that's his first mistake. At Swinburne University of Technology, aptly named, said, "I think, in all likelihood, we'll work out a natural explanation for these events, but I like to keep an open mind and follow wherever the evidence leads me." I should have a laughing track there. When do they ever follow the evidence? And this was published February the 11th. Now they're saying there has been an update that has transpired on this astronomical mystery deepens after fast radio bursts detected from unknown source. Image of the host galaxy FRB 180916 Center acquired with the 8-meter Gemini North Telescope of NSF's OIR lab in Hawaii's Manatika. The position of the FRB in the spiral arm of the galaxy is marked by the green circle. Astronomers have pinpointed the origin of a repeating fast radio burst to a nearby spiral galaxy, challenging theories on the unknown source pulses. Observations with the 8-meter Gemini North Telescope, a program of the NSF's National Optical Infrared Astronomy Research Laboratory, have allowed astronomers to pinpoint the location of a fast radio burst in a nearby galaxy, making it the closest known example to Earth and only the second repeating burst source to have its location pinpointed in the sky. The source of this burst of radio waves is located in the environment radically different from that seen in previous studies. This discovery challenges researchers' assumptions on the origin of these already enigmatic extragalactic events. An unsolved mystery in astronomy has become even more puzzling. The source of the fast radio bursts, sudden bursts of radio waves lasting a few thousandths of a second, has remained unknown since their discovery in 2007. Research published January 6, 2020 in the scientific journal Nature and presented at the 235th meeting of the American Astronomical Society has pinpointed the origin of an FRB to an unexpected environment in a nearby spiral galaxy. Observations with the Gemini North Telescope of NSF Optically Infrared Astronomy Research Laboratory on Mauna Kea in Hawaii. They played a vital role in this discovery, which renders the nature of these extragalactic radio pulses even more enigmatic. The sources of FRBs and their nature are mysterious. Many are one-off bursts, but very few of them emit repeating flashes. The recently discovered FRB, identified by an unpoetic designation of FRB 180916-J0158 plus 65-, is one of only 5 sources with a precisely known location, and only the second such source that shows repeated bursts. Such FRBs are referred to as localized and can be associated with a particular distant galaxy, allowing astronomers to make additional observations that can provide insights into the origin of the radio burst. This object's location is radically different from that of not only the previously located repeating FRB, but also all previously studied FRBs, elaborates Kizzy Nimmo, PhD, student at the University of Amsterdam, and a fellow lead author of this paper. This blurs the differences between repeating and non-repeating fast radio bursts. It may be that FRBs are produced in a large zoo of locations across the universe and just require some specific conditions to be visible, like you gotta tune it in or something, like it's an alien signal. I hate to go there, but that's what he's referring to. Pinpointing the location of FRB 180916-J0158 plus 65-, oh, the minus is gone now, required observations at both radio and optical wavelengths. FRBs can only be detected with radio telescopes, so radio observations are fundamentally necessary to accurately determine the position of an FRB on the sky. This particular FRB was first discovered by the Canadian CHIME radio telescope array in 2018. The new research used the European VLBI network to precisely localize the source, but measuring the precise distance and local environment of the radio source was only possible to follow up optical observations with the Gemini North Telescope. The International Gemini Observatory comprises telescopes in both the northern and southern hemispheres, which together can access the entire night sky. Well, that is great to know, but how do we get to work? We use the cameras and the spectrographs on the Gemini North Telescope to image the faint structures of the host galaxy where the FRB resides, measure to its distance, and analyze its chemical composition. How are they going to do that? Explains Shaharsh Tendulkar, a postdoctoral fellow at McGill University in Montreal, Canada, who led the Gemini observation and subsequent data analysis. These observations showed the FRB originates in a spiral arm on the galaxy in a region which is rapidly forming stars. However, the source of FRB 180916, which lies roughly 500 million light-years from Earth, was unexpected and shows that FRBs may not be linked to a particular type of galaxy or environment, deepening this astronomical mystery. This is the closest FRB to Earth ever localized, explains Benito Marcotti of the Joint Institute for VLBI, European Research Infrastructure Consortium, and a lead author of the Nature paper. Surprisingly, it was found in an environment radically different from that of the previous 4 localized FRBs. An environment that challenges our ideas of what the source of these bursts may be. The researchers hope that further studies will reveal the conditions that result in the production of these mysterious transient radio pulses and address some of the many unanswered questions they pose. Corresponding author Jason Hessels of the Netherlands Institute for Radio Astronomy and University of Amsterdam states that our aim is to precisely localize more FRBs, ultimately understanding their origin. Now in come the Electric Universe, the Thunderbolts group, to rain on the parade. Astronomers think FRBs are created from dying stars. About 8 years ago, astronomers discovered an energy signature they called a fast radio burst, or FRB. The blast of radio waves lasted 5 milliseconds, releasing more energy than the sun puts out in a month. Distance to the source was said to be almost 3 billion light years, and was surmised to come from the death of a black hole. Another source for FRB energy is thought to be from cosmic batteries. If a black hole orbits a neutron star, its immense gravity is thought to create the power that sends those strange bursts into space. Cosmologists recently advanced a theory that black holes can evaporate with surprising violence. If a black hole contains M solar masses, it will glow at 6 times 10 to the power of 8 M Kelvin. That means a black hole can eventually explode like a hydrogen bomb. It is those explosions that are supposed to generate radio emission. Recently, astronomers working with a combination of radio regarding optical telescopes announced that FRB 121102, the first repeating fast radio burst, exploded into space with the force of many supernovae. As the press release states, however, astronomers now have a new puzzle. The source of the broadcast is from a surprisingly small galaxy. Since the galaxy is puny, it is thought that the black hole physics must be involved with FRB formation. Black holes radiating away their masses does not conform to electric universe theory. Radio waves and range of energy curves are properties of lightning bolts. Computer simulations demonstrate that plasma phenomena are scalable over several orders of magnitude, so they behave in the same way whether in atoms or galaxies. Perhaps FRBs are really flashes of cosmic lightning erupting from electrified clouds of plasma on an immense scale. If correct, FRBs are most likely nearby, so they are less energetic. Plasma is the correct way to interpret their behavior, but it is exploding double layers that impel them. Rather than relying on mathematical phantoms like black holes in tandem with overweight neutron stars, why not create real testable hypotheses and work them up with real physical models? Plasma experiments in the laboratory correspond to plasma formations in space. Because of the scalability factor, under similar conditions, plasma discharges produce the same formations independent of size, whether in the laboratory or on a planetary, stellar, or galactic level. Since duration is proportional to size, an electric spark that lasts for microseconds in the laboratory might last for years at the stellar scale, or millions of years at the galactic scale. Stephen Smith. Very good. And we have another one. Power in perspective. What astronomers call a fast radio burst can release more energy in 5 milliseconds than the sun does in 80 years. Assumed distances to such high energy sources is said to be 1 billion light years or more. because of redshift measurements. If that is the case, then the power concentrated in those flashes of energy is equivalent to billions of hydrogen bombs. What could generate those forces? At the outset, it is important to consider that in an electric universe, radio waves and a range of energy curves are properties of lightning bolts. Computer simulations demonstrate that plasma phenomena are scalable over several orders of magnitude. They behave in the same way and illustrate basic premise whether in atoms or galaxies. Recently, physicists working with the Australian Square Kilometre Array Pathfinder announced the discovery of so many FRB sources that they effectively doubled the catalog listings, according to Dr. Jean-Pierre McCourt from the Center for Radio Astronomy Research. Bursts travel for billions of years, passing through intergalactic material along the way. Each time this happens, the different wavelengths that make up the burst are slowed by different amounts. Timing the arrival of the different wavelengths tells us how much material the burst has traveled through on its journey. Assumptions about distance and the density of matter in the universe are built on previous assumptions about the size of the universe and its age. Light waves traveling for billions of years through uncounted clouds of gas and dust betrays a factual presumption underlying all ideas about distance and conditions in the universe. Its size is based on Big Bang theory and black holes factor. And when FRB energies are discussed by the mainstream, collisions among black holes or the explosion of black holes are held forth as explanations for the energy signatures. However, laboratory experiments confirm that plasma formations in space can be modeled in the laboratory due to their scalability. Under similar conditions, plasma discharges produce the same formations independent of size. Since duration is proportional to size, an electric spark that lasts for microseconds in a laboratory might last for years in the stellar scale or millions of years on the galactic scale, where they might suddenly erupt and then dim again. Electric universe cosmologists postulate that FRBs are actually occurring in nearby galactic neighborhoods, so they are not unimaginably powerful and not coming from the edge of the universe, as previously written. Plasma discharges in the form of exploding double layers can accelerate particles in ways that are unfamiliar to consensus astrophysicists. Consensus, that's interesting. Plasma physicist and Nobel laureate Dr. Hans Elfane thought that exploding double layers should be considered a new class of celestial object. Electricity is responsible for stellar and galactic behaviors, and when the current density gets too high, double layers in those circuits catastrophically release their excess energy, appearing as FRBs, X-rays, or flares of ultraviolet light. Elfane wrote, "A study of how a number of the most used textbooks in astrophysics treat important concepts like double layers, critical velocity, pinch effects, and circuits is made. It is found that students using these textbooks remain essentially ignorant of even the existence of these, in spite of the fact that some of them have been well known for half a century, e.g., double layers, Langmuir, 1929 pinch effect, Bennett, 1934. If correct, FRBs are actually nearby. so are less energetic. Plasma is the correct way to interpret their behavior, but it is exploding double layers that impel them. Rather than relying on mathematical phantoms like black holes, why not create real testable hypotheses and work them up with real physical models? Perhaps FRBs are really flashes of cosmic lightning erupting from electrified clouds of plasma in an immense scale. Stephen Smith. Well, he goes more into depth here, but they're pretty much the same. But interesting. I mean, when you have to hypothesize gigantic black holes and neutron stars, you have to also hypothesize huge H-bombs blowing up millions of light years away. Astronomers say Earth has a new mini-moon for now. An asteroid has been caught in our planet's gravity, but it'll float away soon. We have a new space neighbor, at least for a while. Astronomers at NASA-funded Catalina-Sky Survey spotted an asteroid that's caught in Earth's gravity, but the space agency's Center for Near-Earth Object Studies noted that it's on its way out of our planet's orbit. Earth has a new temporarily captured object, possibly a mini-moon, called 2020 CD3. On the night of February 15th, my Catalina Sky Survey teammate Ted Pruney and I found a 20th magnitude object. Big news. Earth has a new temporarily captured object, and there's a little video of it here. They calculated that the asteroid is between 1.9 and 3.5 meters in diameter. Oh. So I don't think too much of this. It's the second asteroid that's known to have entered Earth's orbit. The previous one, 2006 RH-120, was also discovered by the CSS and orbited Earth for 18 months over 2006 and 2007. And this one will be leaving too, I guess. Solar orbiter blasts off to capture first look at the sun's poles. I don't think they're going to like what they find. Cape Canaveral, Florida. It was Cape Canaveral, then it was Cape Kennedy. Now they've changed it back to Cape Canaveral again. I don't really know the story there. Europe and NASA's solar orbiter rocketed into space Sunday night on an unprecedented mission to capture the first pictures of the sun's elusive poles. We're on our way to the sun. Go solar orbiter. Maybe you guys can find out what that little curly Q thing is at the sun's 8 o'clock. We're on the way to the sun. All right. What a name.
Mara Rodriga,
project manager for the European Space Agency. It's a fantastic moment. It's like, well, we're unstoppable. The $1.5 billion spacecraft will join NASA's Parker Solar Probe, launched 1.5 years ago, and coming perilously close to the sun to unveil its secrets. While Solar Orbiter won't venture close enough to penetrate the sun's corona, or crown-like outer atmosphere like Parker. I mean, Parker went right into the corona. It can take that kind of heat. Whoa. It will maneuver into a unique out-of-plane orbit that will take it over both poles, never photographed before. Together with powerful ground observatories, the sun's starting space duo will be like an orchestra, according to Gunther Hasinger, the European Space Agency science director. Every instrument plays a different tune, but together they play the Symphony of the Sun. Oh, I like that. Symphony of the Sun. Solar Orbiter was made in Europe, along with 9 science instruments. NASA provided the 10th instrument and arranged the late-night launch from Cape Canaveral. Nearly 1,000 scientists and engineers from across Europe gathered with their U.S. colleagues under a full moon as the United Launch Alliance's Atlas V rocket blasted off, illuminating the sky for miles around. Crowds also jammed nearby roads and beaches. The rocket was visible for up to 4 full minutes after liftoff, a brilliant star piercing the night sky. Europe's project scientist Daniel Mueller was thrilled, called it picture perfect. His NASA counterpart, scientist Holly Gilbert, exclaimed one word, wow. NASA declared success 1.5 hours later once the Solar Orbiter's solar wings were unfurled. Solar Orbiter, a boxy 4,000-pound spacecraft with spindly instruments, booms, and antennas, will swing past Venus in December and again next year, and then past Earth, using the planet's gravity to alter its path. The full science operations will begin in late 2021. Man, I can't believe it's in 2020 already. It's insane. With the first close solar encounter in 2022 and more every 6 months. At its closest approach, Solar Orbiter will come within 26 million miles, 42 million kilometers of the Sun, well within the orbit of Mercury. Parker Solar Probe by contrast, has already passed within 11.6 million miles, 18.6 million kilometers of the Sun, an all-time record, and is shooting for a slim gap of 4 million miles, 6 million kilometers, by 2025, but it's flying nowhere near the poles. That's where Solar Orbiter will shine. The Sun's poles are pockmarked with dark, constantly shifting coronal holes. They're hubs for the Sun's magnetic field, flipping polarity every 11 years. Solar Orbiter's head-on views should finally yield a full 3D view of the Sun. Well, we're going to see some sweet pictures from that. 93 million miles, 150 million kilometers from our home planet. And it says, with Solar Observatory looking right down the poles, we'll be able to see these huge coronal hole structures. Yeah, maybe you'll get to find out it's electric too, said Nicola Fox, director of NASA's Heliophysics Division. I wonder if she was named after Tesla. That's where all the fast solar wind comes from. It really is a completely different view. I can't wait. To protect the sensitive instruments from the Sun's blistering heat, engineers devised a heat shield with an outer black coating made of burned bone, charcoal, similar to what was used in prehistoric cave paintings. You can't burn something that's burnt. That's true. The 10-foot by 8-foot, 3 meter by 2.4 meter heat shield is just 15 inches, 38 centimeters thick, and made of titanium foil with gaps in between to shed heat. It can withstand temperatures of nearly 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit, 530 degrees Celsius. Embedded in the heat shield are 5 peepholes of varying size that will stay open just long enough for the science instruments to take measurements in X-ray, ultraviolet, visible, and other wavelengths. The observations will shed light on other stars, providing clues as to the potential habitability of worlds in other solar systems. Closer to home, the findings will help scientists better predict space weather, which can disrupt communications. We need to know how the Sun affects the local environment here on Earth, and also Mars and the Moon when we move there, said Ian Walters. I just have a feeling I'll never do that. Project manager for Airbus Defence and Space, which designed and built the spacecraft. We've been lucky so far, the past 150 years, since a colossal solar storm last hit. We need to predict that. We just can't wait for it to happen. Yeah, we'll lose our entire electric grid. The U.S.-European Ulysses spacecraft launched in 1990 and flew over the Sun's poles, but from farther afield and with no cameras on board. It's been silent for more than a decade. Wow. And geez, it was launched in 1990? Holy smokes. It's kind of crazy, but it's been out there. It hasn't worked yet. Europe, what are they waiting for? Europe and NASA's SOHO spacecraft. Okay, yeah, now SOHO I know about. That's a pretty good one. Launched in 95, is still sending back valuable solar data. Yeah, it's a lot of crazy pictures. So much science still yet to do, she said. Oh, I thought they were near the end. And definitely a great time to be a heliophysicist. And then the electric universe front. Electrical engineering Dr. Donald Scott began his analysis. Some of the most intriguing early findings, including the probes for this new probe here, the Parker probe, unexpected detection of magnetic reversals as it has moved through the plasma solar environment. As Dr. Scott continues, man, it's wild that they got a probe. Egypt shock. Dead Sea Scroll scan suggests Noah's Ark was the Great Pyramid of Giza. And I've heard this before, ancient architects. He has video about the Great Pyramid. There are miles, a labyrinth of caves and passages underneath it. And a famous artist made a plaque about it, or a painting on it. I have that. Egypt's Great Pyramid of Giza may have been the metaphorical object used to shield civilization from the Great Flood narrative told in the story of Noah's Ark. A historian has suggested. In the Bible, Noah's Ark is the vessel used in the Genesis flood story through which God spares Noah, his family, and a selection of the world's animals from a world-ending disaster. And most people assumed the story referred to an actual worldwide event with the Ark as a ship. And Matthew Simpson has put forward a theory that The story actually retold a great flood in the Middle East, where Egypt's high rankers used the Great Pyramid of Giza to shield from the disaster, and they used the Great Pyramid as a source for many things, and one of them was a water purifier, which when you think about it, that's what they would need the most of, would be water and air. But the Great Pyramid exposed after a tiny robot explores mystery shaft. And I'll put the video in the description from Ancient Architects where he surmises the same thing. Mr. Simpson's theory, is based on a bombshell discovery in 2016, revealed on his YouTube. Oh, our Ancient Architects. Okay, yeah, this is the guy. I'll be damned, he got himself a little press. That's cool. He said last week the Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered by Bedouin shepherds more than 50 years ago in the Qumran caves, the Judea Desert of the West Bank near the Dead Sea. Yes, the Dead Sea Scrolls and the other one, the Nag Hammadi texts, were found 2 years apart. The find contained around 800 manuscripts, thought to be around 2,000 years old, and contain a range of biblical and non-biblical stories offering experts a glimpse into the past. Some have called it the greatest archaeological discovery of the 20th century. I believe Nag Hammadi was probably even more of a great find than the Dead Sea Scrolls were. But scientists working at the Leon Levy Dead Sea Scrolls Digital Library project scanned tens of thousands of fragments of the scrolls with a custom-made camera that used different wavelengths of light at 28 times higher resolution than standard scans. And it's got some pictures here. Previously illegible words could now be read. Before then, regarding the story of Noah's Ark, scholars had been unable to read a particular word following the Hebrew phrase, the ark's tallness, but the new scans revealed the word Nisaphat. Nazfat. The translation of this word from Hebrew to English means gathered, which Dr. Alexei Yudisky from the Hebrew University of Jerusalem says means that the ark's ribs were gathered at the top to form a shape of a pyramid. But there is more evidence of the ark being described as a pyramid. Mr. Simpson revealed, he added, according to Dr. Yudsky, the Septuagint, a Greek translation of the Old Testament, which dates to the 3rd century BC, also describes the ark as pyramid-shaped, using a Greek verb that also has a similar meaning to gathered. A number of medieval authors, such as Maimonides, also suggested that Noah's Ark was somewhat pyramid-shaped. Many believe that Noah's Ark is just a myth, and some believe it describes a global flood. But it could be the retelling of a story that centers around flooding in the Middle East. The idea of a pyramid-shaped ark, of course, makes us think of ancient Egypt, and we know that Egypt features heavily in the Old Testament. Mr. Simpson said that it is unlikely that there was actually a pyramid-like vessel, but instead the story is a metaphor for how the Egyptians survived the flood. He also pointed out more evidence of his theory. He added, so was Noah's Ark actually an Egyptian pyramid. Reading the specific words of the Old Testament, it would not appear so. And of course, the Egyptian pyramids were not made of wood. But if the story is a retelling of the Great Flood in Egypt, then maybe there is some truth to the idea which has been lost in translation. There is more evidence. The elaborate bronze doors of the baptistry in Florence, created by Lorenzo Ghiberti, that's the artist I was talking about, who died in the 15th century. The doors were completed in the early 1400s and show scenes from the Old Testament. One illustrates the period just after the biblical Great Flood, when Noah returns to dry land. Interestingly, Ghiberti depicts the ark as a pyramid. Mr. Simpson finalized his theory with one more point. He said, some scholars say that the Great Pyramid of Egypt was built to reflect the primeval mound that, according to the ancient Egyptian tradition, emerged from the expanse of the primordial waters. Well, we know that as the Axis Mundi, which, the Christmas tree and everything else is based around. And absolutely, it would be a pyramid. This story is not thought to be literal. Could the Great Pyramid have actually been a structure to survive the flood? That's what Velikovsky thought. And it probably doubled or tripled as a water purifier. We could have got electric power from it. Could have did a lot of things. They built that thing so well we couldn't do it even today. Maybe the Egyptian elites built their own primal mountain to escape an impending flood. That's what I've always said. Anyways, click the link in the description and check it out. I don't know if some of you maybe were around a year ago when we were talking about the pyramid. I even read your comments in another video. And we got a lot talked about in that video, in those two videos. I think everything was pretty much brought up. But the whole thing started it, Velikovsky postulating that it was built to sustain a catastrophe. That's why it had 5 roofs. But we expanded on it. How many remember it? The Lycurgus cup. 1600-year-old goblet shows a culture that were nanotechnology pioneers. Researchers have finally found out why the jade green cup appears red when lit from behind. And of course, it's giving full credit to the Romans. I highly doubt that. The colorful secret of the 1600-year-old Roman chalice at the British Museum. At the British Museum. Shouldn't it be in a Roman museum? Is the key to a super sensitive new technology that might help diagnose human disease or pinpoint biohazards at security checkpoints. The glass chalice, known as the Lycurgus cup, because it bears a scene involving King Lycurgus of Thrace, appears jade green when lit from the front, but blood red when lit from behind. There was also a Spartan lawgiver named Lycurgus, who lived a lot sooner. A property that puzzled scientists for decades after the museum acquired the cup in the 1950s. Oh, well, maybe they got it by honest means. I figured, they took it in the Middle Ages. The mystery wasn't solved until 1990, when researchers in England scrutinized broken fragments under a microscope and discovered that the artisans were nanotechnology pioneers. They'd impregnated the glass with particles of silver and gold, ground down until they were as small as 50 nanometers in diameter, less than 1,000th the size of a grain of table salt. The exact mixture of the precious metals suggests the Romans, or whoever they were, knew what they were doing. An amazing feat, says one of the researchers, archaeologist Ian Freeston of the University College, London. Ancient nanotech works something like this. When hit with a light, electrons belonging to the metal flex, vibrate in ways that alter the color depending on the observer's position. Gang Loganloo, an engineer at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, who has long focused on using nanotechnology to diagnose disease, and his colleagues realized that this effect offered untapped potential. The Romans knew how to make and use nanoparticles for beautiful art. I never learned the lowdown on it, but I would have thought the cup would have been a lot older. Pre-Rome. Lou says, we wanted to see if this could have scientific applications. When various fluids filled the cup, Lou suspected they would change how the vibrating electrons in the glass interacted, and thus the color. Today's home pregnancy tests exploit a separate nano-based phenomenon to turn a white line pink. Yeah, there's litmus paper too. That don't mean anything. Since the researchers couldn't put liquid into the precious artifact itself, they instead imprinted billions of tiny wells onto a plastic plate about the size of a postage stamp and sprayed the wells with gold or silver nanoparticles, essentially creating an array with billions of ultra-miniature Lycurgus cups. When water, oil, sugar solutions, and salt solutions were poured into the wells, they displayed a range of easy-to-distinguish colors. Green, light green for water, and red for oil, for example. The prototype was 100 times more sensitive to altered levels of salt in solution than current commercial sensors using similar techniques. It may one day make its way into handheld devices for detecting pathogens in samples of saliva or urine, or for thwarting terrorists trying to carry dangerous liquids onto airplanes. The original 4th century AD Lycurgus cup, probably taken out only for special occasion, depicts King Lycurgus ensnared in a tangle of grapevines, presumably for evil acts committed against Dionysus, the Greek god of wine. If inventors manage to develop a new detection tool from this ancient technology, it'll be Lycurgus' turn to do the ensnaring. Show you the guy, the Spartan. He looks similar. See, that was the Spartan Lycurgus. He's got a beard. That's why I thought maybe it might be him. But I haven't seen King Lycurgus yet, so let's see him and see what he looks, how ugly. Let's see, King Lycurgus. You see? Oh, there's a kind of a, yeah, I guess he did have a beard. I don't know enough about it, but I'll